All righty, here we go. Guys, are you ready to take full ownership of your results this year? Because 2025 is the year to get laser focused and emotionally invested in your fitness goals. But there's a big reason why. This is going to be very strategic. This framework is going to guide you to clarify what you want, why it matters, and how you'll be able to make it happen with intention and consistency so that you don't become another weight loss story where you lose weight or get in shape, whatever your goals are, and then return back to your old patterns. So, the title of this one is Making 2025 Your Most Successful Fitness and Weight Loss Year You've Ever Had. That's not hyperbole. If you follow these things, which let me see how many I've got. There are, I believe, 10, pretty close. So there's nine. There are nine key focuses that we're going to go through. I'm going to go through this pretty dang rapid fire. So, if you're part of my program, be sure to get out a pen and paper so you can take notes because there is going to be some homework on this. But this is not going to be the type of boring homework that you dread. This is going to be homework that is going to cause you to pull out the well, let's call it the key desires and emotions that maybe have been buried, locked, trapped, whatever, dormant, if you will. And we're going to help to bring those out and put them to a structure so that you can get the results you want. And this is coming from 20 years as of 2025, 20 years of fitness coaching expertise. So, without further ado, the very first thing that you want to do now, very actually, hold on a second. You're going to hear some things that in the past maybe you've heard before when we're talking about goals or focus and what have you. I want you to clear your mind of what you think those things mean until I've gone through the methods that I'm going to explain as part of my Joyfully Fit 365 system. Because just because people talk about goals and setting, I'm not talking about SMART goals today, but that's a key one where people will talk about and then they just turn a blind, well, let's call it turn a deaf ear towards this thing that might be able to help them, all because they perceive that they've heard it before. So if that's you, I want you to go ahead and check what you think you know about these topics at the door, and we're going to go ahead and dive in with a fresh thought, fresh perspective, fresh listening ears, and open eyes. Okay. So, the very first thing we're going to start with here, point number one, is we've got to start with focus in mind. Okay. Now, again, this is the part where people are like, duh. Yeah, well, not exactly. I'm going to show you what I mean. The first step is knowing exactly what you want to achieve and committing to taking full responsibility for that process. And I mean exactly what you want to achieve. So the premise here is that clarity and focus are the foundation of success. Without a clear vision, you're just hoping for results. And again, the Bible even says, without clear or without vision, my people perish. Without knowledge, my people perish. And so we're taking that same notion, the same principle, which is universal, and we're applying that to our health and fitness goals. Chances are you did apply that to get to the spot in your career where you're successful, or the spot in your business where you're successful, and you're just not knowing how to use that in a more, let's call it, structured manner when it comes to health and fitness. Okay. So clarity and focus are the foundation for your success. Success is not about luck, it's about intention and consistent action. So the very first question is, what do I truly want to achieve in my fitness journey this year? And I want you to be very, very specific. Okay. So this comes into the part number two, which is to define your main goals. And you've got to be so incredibly specific. Otherwise, this does not work. So your goals need to be measurable and specific. Measurable meaning that you can't just say, I want to lose weight or I want to be healthier. How do you measure that? How is that quantitative? Okay. Now, again, it's good to have qualitative goals like I want to feel better so that blah, blah, blah. But you've got to be able to have something measurable, something quantitative, so that you know that you're not creating a moving target for yourself. And you actually know when you've reached this goal, yes, I reached this, I feel better. And that gives your brain the feedback that I did what I wanted to do, reach this goal by doing X, Y, and Z. Okay. So the examples on this are going to be to make sure you've got a clear target. Number one would be, as an example, I want to lose 20 pounds by focusing on consistent fat loss habits. Now, again, I normally am not going to teach to lose a certain amount of weight. Instead, I'm going to teach you to aim for a certain body fat percentage. Because again, a lot of times people have such a misconstrued version of where they think they should be on weight. Sometimes I'll talk with people and they feel like they need to lose 65 pounds. And it's simply because they have no concept of what a good weight would be if they have a healthy amount of body fat and a healthy amount of muscle. So they're only thinking about either what their doctor has said or maybe where they were 20 to 25 years ago, and they just want to reach that again. And the reality is that that weight goal might not even be relevant to where you are based on what you want to accomplish. All right. So another one would be I want to get, if you're a male, I want to get to about 15% body fat with a flat stomach so that I can finally fit into my clothes and not feel embarrassed when I'm going on vacation with my wife. If you're female, it might be something like I want to reach 25% body fat so that I have a flat stomach and my arms and shoulders are toned and I can finally wear a two piece in front of my husband without feeling embarrassed, etc. Okay. So another one might be improve my digestion and energy by following the 80-20 rule of flexible eating, which is what we teach. Or another, increase my strength by prioritizing progressive overload in my workouts. Okay. Now, again, what I'm doing here in these examples is I'm using some of the key components of what we teach in the program in Joyfully Fit 365 to actually reach these goals. So if I'm talking about improving my digestion and energy by following the 80-20 rule of flexible eating, as long as I'm in a calorie deficit in a fat loss phase, that's not only going to improve my energy and my digestion, it's going to help me to get off the body fat in a way that is, number one, easy to adhere to. Number two, a way that feels like once I do get the weight off, I'm not going to be tempted to go back to my old style of living. That's where most people get screwed, is they are seeing all of this stuff as some sort of temporary thing. They see weight loss as, well, I've got to lose the weight so I can get back to normal. That is a wrong frame of mind. You do not want to take that. Instead, what you want to ask yourself is, how do I lose the weight in a way that I enjoy the process so much that I never am tempted to go back to my old unhealthy lifestyles that don't serve me, don't lead to the energy that I want, makes me feel like crap, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So the exercise here is that I want you to write down 1 to 2 measurable goals that you want to achieve in the next 3 to 6 months. And obviously, one of those goals should be on the big part of what is the main thing that you want to accomplish. Because I gave you the digestion and energy and so on and so forth, as those are supporting goals, but it supports the original thing, which is I want to get into a two-piece swimming suit, which the only way I'm going to feel comfortable is having a flat stomach, toned arms, and toned legs. When you have that, that leads you into the next part, which is understanding your why. Okay. So this is part 3, which is called understand your why, which is also known as our emotional anchor or underlying motivation. So your why is what keeps you going when motivation wanes, when stress is high, when the season is crazy, when you're so spread thin or what have you, that you feel tempted to not focus on what it takes to get the results you want. Your big why, your underlying motivation, is the thing that what we call is your emotional fuel that drives the car of your goals. Okay. If you don't have that why, and if your why is just, I don't know, I want to feel better. Well, who the crap doesn't? Everybody wants to feel better. That's not a good enough why for you. That's going to cause you to go, yeah, honey, I'm going to go ahead and work out today. Even though I've had a long day, I don't feel like it, but I know I'm going to feel better because I'm pushing towards the goal. And I want to make sure I feel amazing for our anniversary coming up in November. Okay. That would be a great example of this and really focusing on these why statements. Okay. The big thing is that once you kind of determine your emotional connection, you've got to dig deeper. Okay. And I know that sounds silly, but you've got to dig deeper. Why does this matter to me personally? Okay. Why is it that I want to fit into that two-piece bathing suit? It's not good enough to say that you want to feel better. It's really not even good enough to say that, well, this is going to feel good on my honeymoon or on my anniversary trip. It's good, but that's not going to keep you there. That's going to maybe make you work all the way until your anniversary, but it's not going to keep you going after your anniversary, which is what we call goal systems versus goals. Okay. So with that being said, an example of your why statements might be, I want to feel confident in my body again and set a healthy example for my kids, which is again supporting why you want to be at that 25% body fat with a flat stomach. Or it might be, I'm tired of hiding in oversized clothes and I want to wear what I love without shame. Or I don't want to be in the swimming pool wearing some sort of something over me while I'm in the pool, whether it's a t-shirt or, some sort of wrap. We want to try and get you to see the pain that you're normally enduring because you don't have your system and structure in place. Okay. The key question here is, why is this goal important to me? And how will it improve my specific life? Okay. So, again, when we're talking about being tired of hiding in oversized clothes, this is where you're like, well, so what? It's making me feel miserable when I'm hiding in oversized clothes. Okay, well, why does that matter? Well, I'm tired of feeling miserable because when I feel miserable like this, I don't feel connected with my husband. I don't feel connected with my wife, or I feel like I'm so focused on my self image that I can't be present with my kids. And so I'm hiding instead of being in photos. I'm not participating in the memories that we're trying to make, which is the reason we got the pool to begin with. Okay. Is this making sense? Drop me a comment and let me know if this is resonating. All right. So, number 4, we've got to identify the habits and actions that you need in order to reach this goal. Success is the result of consistent actions, not wishful thinking. Okay. So, some of the habits that we want to make sure that we adopt. If you're part of my Joyfully Fit 365 program, we want to make sure that we're going to set habits such as, okay, I'm committed to tracking my food 7 days a week, even during stressful times or travel. Okay. That'd be a great example. Another one, I'm committed to getting at least 8,000 steps a day or following Lance's cardio guidance if I'm struggling to get my 8,000 steps a day. It's not enough to just be like, well, I'm on the road a lot today, so it's just not going to get done. Or, well, the business is crazy, Lance. It's just not going to get done today. Well, that's up to you. But what you're telling me is, well, my business is super busy, or I'm stressed out doing what I'm doing with the kids, so I'm not really concerned about my fat loss goals this week. Well, that's up to you. But if you're really focused on how I've been in my past when I was struggling with such immense insecurities, and dare I even say self loathing at times, I didn't really see things that way. For me, it was just like, okay, I'm stressed out today and I don't feel like working out, but I really don't like how I look and feel if I don't work out and I skip that. Am I going to feel better about myself or worse? Well, the answer is worse. And the reality is that if you guys are not breaking things down to ask yourself questions like this, you're stuck in what's known as system 1 thinking. System 1 thinking is where you're like, what's 2 plus 2? 4. What's the color of the sky? Blue. What's the color of the grass? Green. Doesn't take a whole lot of thinking at all. It doesn't take the slow process. Where if I ask you what's 247 times 468, well, now you got to get out a calculator. You got to think. You got to stop for a second. Or if I ask you, like, I don't know, why would you do X, Y, and Z instead of this? You've got to think, like, I don't know, in this scenario, this might happen. In this scenario, this might happen. We require your system to thinking in this scenario so that you're not just thinking about, like, well, I don't feel like doing it right now, so it's just not going to get done. Let your system 1 thinking, okay? System 2 thinking is required, at least in the beginning, so you can build up habits and a structure that fits your life and leads to the goals that you want to reach. But here's the thing, if you don't have a strong, very strong emotional underlying motivation, none of this matters. You're simply going to go, well, Lance, I'm just stressed. You just got to understand. This is just the way my business works. Lance, I'm just stressed. I've got 19 kids and this is what I've got to do. Well, that's up to you. But it sounds to me like you're only focused on that motivation or that underlying motivation when all things are going well for you. And that's just not real life. If you're waiting to feel motivated to go work out, waiting to feel motivated to get all of your steps in or to dial in your nutrition, well, again, chances are you're not going to get it done unless everything is going flat out perfect in your life. I can't think of a single time where that's ever happened in my life. And yet I've still gotten myself to a point, not that I've reached all my goals, but I've reached the goal that got me out of the trench that I was in when I started my journey. Okay. And I'll talk about that in another video. But the point is that if you are not keenly aware of the pain that you're trying to get out of, and the reward that you're trying to finally get, when your life gets stressful, you're just simply going to focus on the action that you're not wanting to take as opposed to the consequences that happens when you don't take that action. You must be focused on what it is you want, why it is that you want it, and what you're willing to do to commit to in order to get this and keep it long term. So another one would be, I'm committed to showing up for coaching sessions to get unstuck, or gain clarity. Another one, I'm going to be focusing on applying the 80-20 rule of flexible eating to stay on track while avoiding setbacks. Another one, I'm going to go rapid fire. focusing on progressive overload, which again, I'll teach about that even more on other videos, and time under tension in your workouts. And progressive overload, simply put, is that we got to make sure that we're leaving 0 to 3 reps in reserve, meaning that the last 2 to 3 reps that you're on your set should be a challenge. Meaning that if I offered you $1 million to get another rep or two, the most you should be able to get when you finish that set is 2 to 3 reps, but hopefully closer to 1 to 2. And this is progressive overload if you're making it harder each week, meaning that if last week I had you do 3 sets of 15 and you were able to do 20 pounds, this week you either should be aiming for 25 pounds if possible. And if you can't do that with good form, then you should be aiming to increase your total repetitions or slowing down your tempo so you're controlling the resistance even more. Okay. Another one, using timers to hit your daily step goals. So I talk about setting 4 alarms, one at 2,500, one at 5,000, one at 7,500, one at 10,000, 4 times throughout the day until it becomes a habit. So it reminds you of, oh crap, it's 10:30 and I'm not at 2,500 steps. I'm going to pause what I'm doing. I'm going to go walk for a little bit and get my steps in and come back to the work that I know will be waiting for me. Another one, planning protein-rich meals 2 times a week to be made to avoid scrambling for options or feeling like you don't have things prepared. We don't teach the typical meal planning. I teach specifically maybe on a Sunday to make up 2 or 3 meats, one in a pressure cooker maybe, one in a skillet, one in the oven. So it might look like you've got buffalo chicken in the pressure cooker, you maybe in the skillet you've got taco seasoned meat, and in the oven you've got, if you're at our house, it's most likely going to be Parmesan garlic encrusted chicken. All of these things get done in about 20 to 25 minutes collectively, and you're only watching one. If you do that and you take out your meats and you put them in Tupperware or whatever, and you have baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, brown rice, wheat tortillas, whole wheat buns sitting ready for you, plus your vegetables and your fruits, that means that you simply go in the fridge, you pull out your meat, and you figure out what you want that with. Now, we teach always to grab or to pair a protein with a carbohydrate, or better said, is to pair a carbohydrate with a protein. This is going to keep your insulin from spiking as much, number one. And number two, it's going to keep you more satiated and fuller. And more than anything is protein is more thermogenic, which means that you are actually going to burn more calories by eating protein than what you would by eating carbs or fats, okay? So planning your protein meals twice a week, doing Sunday, then maybe again on Wednesday, it's ideal because you're cooking up a bulk amount of meat, but yet you're not doing the cooking for 6 hours all day that most people used to believe is what meal prep really was, okay? Now, the question that you've got to ask yourself is, what specific habits will I commit to daily and weekly to make sure that I hit these goals, okay? So what we call these habits is basically the goal system. Your goal system is the things that you will do consistently in order to reach your goal, even after you've reached your goal. Meaning that a lot of times people only set goals to drop 20 or 30 pounds, 60 pounds, whatever. They have no more goals once they've reached that. So at that point, it's either go back to their old lifestyle or set a new goal, which most people aren't interested in at the time. And then they regain the weight and now they have to set a new goal. And now they've got self-doubt because they've regained what they lost before. And they feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me that I can't keep the weight off. No, there's not something wrong with you. There's something wrong with the structure and habits that you're adopting. Let's fix that. Okay. All right. Number 5, we've got to commit to consistency and why you'll do it. So the difference between success and stagnation is simply this: showing up consistently. Okay. Even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable or you don't feel motivated to do so, you're committed. You're committed to raising your kids or keeping your business, even on days where your kids don't follow their homework or when your kids are whining or crabby or whatever. You're not thinking of giving up your kids, or at least I hope not. You're actually thinking about what to do to solve the problem so that you can keep your kids, which you know you're going to do, but in a way that doesn't drive you nuts, which is, again, we begin thinking, what sort of things must I be consistent in? Well, if it's for your kids, I've got to be consistent in discipline, or I've got to be consistent in structure so that they know that there's consequences if they're acting out of the structure of what we deem appropriate for this household, okay? So the concept here is that consistency beats perfection every time. So your goal now for 2025 is consistency in your habits and not doing perfect on your diet, doing perfect on your workouts. Screw that. It's never going to happen. I'm not perfect on my diet, on my nutrition, on my workouts, on anything. I'm simply consistent. And by consistent, I mean 80 to 85% of the time, I do what I need to do and I know exactly what I'm doing. That's the key here. And if you struggle with that, and if you need help, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. Okay. So think of your habits as non negotiables, just like brushing your teeth. If you were running late on your way to work, do you really think that you're going to go, oh, well, my teeth just aren't going to get brushed today because, I just didn't have time? No, you're going to go, that's going to lead to some consequences that I don't really want to participate in. I'm going to make sure this gets done. It's called a non negotiable. You are more focused on the consequence of missing said teeth brushing or habit as opposed to the consequence of doing it and feeling like I'm spending another 60 seconds or whatever being later. You're willing to be 1 to 2 minutes later to your job, to your business or whatever in order to get your teeth brushed because you don't want to show up where you're breathing dragon breath on somebody and they're like, who is it? It's going to be negative consequences. If you begin to imagine and think about the consequences of not following through on your habits, as opposed to getting things perfect or how you feel in the moment, I assure you, these will become non-negotiables that will lead you to not just your results, but results that last because you're building those habits up, okay? Let me know if this is making sense in the comments below. All right, I'm gonna keep on moving. Got a lot to go through. Now, the key question pertaining to consistency is, what is my driving reason for staying consistent even on tough days? Well, this comes back to your underlying motivation. If you're focused on consistency without thinking about your why, you're skipping a step. You've got to think about, okay, why am I doing this again? Well, just like what I said at the beginning of the video, if I skip doing this thing, it's not just a missed workout. If I do it once, it's a missed workout. If it becomes a habit, like what I teach, climate versus weather, now it becomes climate or habit, which means that I am consistently staying out of alignment with the very things that I know lead to the destination that I want to be. It just doesn't make sense, okay? Okay, number 6, we've got to evaluate the cost of inaction. So in other words, if you don't follow through, what are the consequences? What will you lose? So the premise here is that inaction has consequences, and it's not just for that day. There are compound interest of consequences: poor health, low confidence, missed opportunities, deteriorating habits that are good, leading a bad example for your kids, having poor health enough that you're not able to show up for your job, missing out on promotions. All of these things end up happening specifically because we didn't follow through, and these are the cost of inactions. You want to be very specific though about the pain of staying stuck to keep yourself motivated. So it's not just, oh, I'm stuck and I'll feel bad. No, that's some of it, but be honest. Dig deep and be vulnerable. What is really at stake here? Well, what's at stake is, Lance, is I'm pre-diabetic and I don't have a good sex life. My energy is low. I'm super embarrassed to wear anything outside of sweats because nothing fits me right. I hate going to try on clothes. And gosh, man, I don't even want to go on anniversaries with my spouse because I know that we're going to go to some place where I'm going to feel insecure and out of place, even though I should be focused on what we have to celebrate. Okay. These are painful moments that I have heard from my clients in the last 20 years that they focused on to get out of. You've got to do that same thing. Okay. So the examples might be, I'm going to continue feeling uncomfortable in social settings. I'll miss out on memories because I'm avoiding photos or activities. That might be with your kids. It might be with your family, whatever it might be, but you've got to focus on it. So the question is, what will it cost me if I don't commit to my goals this year? Will this be another year where you gain even more weight? If your energy level is already poor and you're gaining more, your confidence level is already low and you gain more, is it going to be better or worse? I'm going to go ahead and say worse, right? That's what we're focusing on. This is the cost of not taking action, okay, or consistent action. Now, this leads to the next part, number 7, which is you got to visualize the rewards of success. And it's not immediate. You got to get out of the instant gratification concept. What's waiting for you on the other side of consistent effort? For you, it might be different. For me, it was more energy. It was finally feeling confident to talk to, at my age at the time, to talk to girls. For me, it was also not feeling so socially awkward, feeling confident in my academics and my mind, because before I didn't have enough confidence in my physique and my body to even have confidence in my mind to communicate with people. For me, once I got the confidence in my physique and my body, my frame, whatever you want to call it, I stopped feeling so awkward and I embraced the fact that I'm an academic. I'm never going to be the sport jock person, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to care about sports. I never have. I never will. I'm not going to keep up with whatever social structure, is there. But what I can tell you is that if I feel better about myself, I can bring my full personality to the table. And it's amazing because you end up getting some awesome conversations and some awesome relationships out of this. So there's some really great things. So what's waiting for you on the other side of this consistent effort? The premise here is that we're focusing on the rewards, making the hard work feel worth it. Instead of saying like, this workout's going to take 30 minutes and I just don't want to do it. Instead, it's like, well, this workout only takes about the time of an episode, and it's casting a vote towards this life that I'm so dang committed on reaching. So the other part is that you got to be detailed about the pleasure and pride that come from reaching your goals. Stop saying, I'll feel better. Yes, you'll feel better, but how? Be specific. List them out. Think about all the things that you've complained about and think about the antithesis, the opposite of that. That's what you've got at stake here. So examples might be fitting into clothes that I love and feeling confident again, catching my partner's eye, or feeling strong and capable in my body as I age. These are big things. So the question is, what will I gain if I follow through with my goals this year consistently? Okay. And for me, I had a lot to gain. So I kept at it. I've not been perfect by any means, but perfection is not required. Okay. That's the cool thing. Now, part 8, you got to prepare for setbacks and you still got to stay the course even when that happens. Okay. Progress is not linear. It doesn't just happen automatically, and it does not just happen consistently all the time where it's just straight in the row. Like every week I lose 2 pounds no matter what. Well, sometimes it's not going to happen that way. So here's the thing. Will you let slow results derail you, or will you stay the course in spite of that, knowing that if you let go of the things that are bringing those slow results, you're going to get not only no results, but you're going to get negative results. If you're not thinking about these consequences again, you won't be prepared for those setbacks and you're not going to stay the course. Now, what normally happens is it's not necessarily slow results that act or slow progress that gets people off course. It's something happens at work, something happens with the kids, something emotional, something financial. And this thing in that moment feels more pressing than the thing that you're working on. How does that happen? Well, if the pain level of this thing outweighs the pain level that you've recognized for your life that you're trying to get out of, well, guess what? You're going to see that this thing, oh, Lance, I'm sorry, I got to pause your program. Oh, Lance, I'm sorry, I'd love to do your program, but the season is too stressful. Yeah, I get it, but wouldn't you feel better if you're in this stressful season, feeling better, having better health, better fitness, better confidence, more energy? Don't you think if you came to your problem with those things, you might solve it better, quicker, you might solve it with a better mindset, and you might come out even more ahead? I'm going to go ahead and bet yes, okay? So the premise here is that results may be slow, but quitting guarantees failure, and that's pretty long term. So what will I focus on the process that feels slower, harder than I expected? So again, what will I focus on when the process feels slow or harder than I expected? Well, if you've got your underlying motivation and you know the consequences of not following through, that's what you focus on. That's it. So the mindset shift that I want you to adopt is, I didn't get here overnight and I won't get to my goal overnight either. Okay. I'll stay consistent because the alternative is starting over again later and feeling worse in the interim, feeling worse before I get there. Guys, if you truly feel as bad as I did when I had so many insecurities before my fitness transformation, I can assure you, there is not a worse. You don't want the worse because you feel so insignificant. You feel so inconfident. You feel so insecure, okay? When you are really painfully aware of that, your low energy, the low confidence, the fact that you have to talk yourself out of getting out of bed to go to work that day, or getting out of bed to socialize because you feel envious of everybody else, or you feel jealous of the fact that they don't have to think about all the things that you do. When you're focused on those pain levels and getting out of it, it will keep you motivated even when finances get rocky, when your work gets rocky, when the kids aren't behaving, when you find out bad news, etc. Now, I'm not talking about finding out bad news, somebody died, and it's like, nope, can't take off anything. No, I'm not talking about being rigid. I'm talking about being consistent and adherent. And the structure in my program allows you to take off for that week if somebody passes on or something like that. Take the time to grieve. But grieving over a loss is quite a bit different than just going through a stressful season and going, oh, my boss is riding me and I'm just so stressed out. Or in another scenario that I've had is, well, we're working on building the house and I had all these unexpected things and I'm just too stressed. So I just got to put a pin in all this. Really? Really? So what are you going to do after your house? Well, I'm going to start back again. How much are you going to gain in the meantime? I don't know. Is that going to bother you? Probably. Are you willing to do that? Well, it's all I can think about right now. Okay, you made up your mind. That's what ends up happening. That's most people. So again, you didn't get here overnight. It's not going to be overnight that you get out of here. All right. Number 9, final one. You got to identify and overcome barriers to consistency. Okay. So what usually stands in your way and how will you prevent it this year compared to other years? So examples are, and this is one that I've heard a lot with clients over the years. The barrier is I always lose focus when I travel, Lance. I do so good when I'm at home, but when I travel, oh, I just can't get it together. Well, what's the solution? Well, we plan meals and workouts ahead of time. I schedule them. And it's not just about planning the meals. For some people, what really does help, and this is a lot of my clients, you actually write out your calendar where it's like for lunch on day 1, we're going to have barbecue chicken sandwiches. For dinner, we're going to go out to a restaurant. You can do that in my program. On Tuesday, day 2, we're going to have, I don't know, let's say, I'm trying to think of something. You know what? Buffalo chicken flatbread pizza. Delicious. But it fits in your macros and you just plan it. Well, what do I need to make those things happen? Well, I need the ingredients that are in there and I need to make sure that I'm home or that I'm wherever I need to be to throw those things in the oven or air fryer or what have you. That's simply all this takes. It's just a little bit of planning ahead. It doesn't mean what you think it means from the past. Oh, I'm going to spend all day Sunday meal prepping and this, that, and the other. No, that's what you think that we do. That's not what we do, okay? So another barrier, I get overwhelmed with stress and I either don't want to eat or I just absolutely just want to eat everything, or I just can't think about working out, blah, 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 or I don't hit my my step goals. The solution is going to be, I've got to focus on just one keystone habit. We teach there are 5 main keystone habits that will lead you to where you want to go and keep you there. So if you're struggling and overwhelmed, let's just focus on 1 or 2 right now. Make sure you've got those dialed in. It kind of turns into that serenity prayer thing where it's, God grant me the serenity to, and I'm going to get this wrong for sure, but it's going to be a little bit close, to make peace basically with the things that I can't change, to change the things that I can, and to have the wisdom and to know the difference between the two, okay? So what I'm saying here is that when you're overwhelmed with stress, you've got to figure out what are the things that I can still be in control of. And a lot of times it's your keystone habits that we teach, making sure you're getting X amount of steps in, making sure you're tracking your macros. Not that you're getting them perfect, but that you're tracking them. Why? Because you can control that, and it will cause you to at least put some conscious effort into what you're putting into your mouth. So you focus on 1 or 2 keystone habits. Is it going to be as good as the week before? No, maybe not. But it's going to keep you from sinking and drowning as far as the goals go, okay? So focus on just 1 to 2 keystone habits when in those. The key question I want you to ask is, what do I need to change in order to prevent my usual obstacles from stifling my progress? I'm going to say that again. What must I change to prevent the usual obstacles that typically derail or stifle my progress? Well, again, if you're an overeater or you're a food lover like me, you've got to think about, well, what happens? And this is how I wrote my book, Food Love and Fat Loss, because I am a food lover and I don't want to be that coach that just is like, well, yeah, I mean, giving up all fast food and all delicious pizzas and all that stuff, just a lifestyle. And I'm glad I did it. What? I don't want to give up all those things, but I do know that if I eat those things all the time or every time I'm stressed out, I'm going to overdo my calories and I will gain body fat that makes me feel worse about myself. Therefore, it's super worth it for me to figure out what is causing me usually to overeat, to stress eat, to binge eat, to eat foods that are way higher in calories than what I can afford to do in that season. And what do I need to do to make it different? A lot of times, it really is not the food you've got to focus on. It's the internal structure and dialogue that you've got going on, which is I'm not going to give up my strategies, my systems, my structure just because I'm stressed. I'm going to go to a counselor and I'm going to use talk therapy. I'm going to call my sister, my mom, my dad. I'm going to call somebody, a good friend, and I'm going to vent to them, getting good feedback, helping me to, let's say, expel those emotions so that they don't sit and fester. And then you're eating your feelings because those feelings come with consequences. Okay. Am I making sense here? I know I'm getting excited, but this is what I do. Okay. So what do I need to change this year to prevent my usual obstacles from stifling my progress? Now, my final thoughts here. Your results are absolutely in your hands, whether you know it or not. Okay. They are in your hands. Success is not about blaming your body. It's not about blaming stress or the program that you're in. It really is about using all of the tools and strategies that we teach with consistency and patience, okay? So I want you to take responsibility, commit to your habits, trust the process, okay? You didn't get here overnight, and you simply will not reach your goal overnight, as I've mentioned. But if you do the work, the results will come if you're consistent. The only way you can be consistent is to do these 9 things that I went through, okay? So I want you to help to make 2025 the best year you've ever had. You want to take full ownership of that journey, and it will be, okay? So what I want to know from you is, which of the 9 things here do you feel like you did not do well over the last year or the last multiple years, and which one right now are you most focused on? Go ahead and drop me a comment wherever you're watching. Drop me a comment in the comments below, and I will get back with you. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys all on the next one. Have an awesome day.